Hi, here we are in our second meeting with Dario Mohr. He is the founder and director of Enclave. So Dario, can you tell us a little bit more what you're doing as curator and also as an artist?
So I founded Enclave Arts Alliance Inc. Really in 2011, I started with my curating, but it wasn't until 2018 that we became a nonprofit organization. And, it's just an opportunity for, BIPOC artists to be able to showcase their work in alternative ways, just kind of in alternative spaces, like here at the Queens Botanical Garden, where we're going to have the Enclave Garden Project Fellows, to this neighborhood, in part because I actually went to elementary school in Flushing. I went to PS 20. And I would come here for school trips, and I've been spend a lot of time here in my youth. So coming back and being able to engage with what used to be part of my neighborhood and my community is very exciting on a personal note. But also, it's just cool to be able to think about presenting work um, in a space and in a neighborhood where there aren't many galleries. There aren't, many people of this community maybe haven't really been to galleries like in, Manhattan and things. And it's just, and some people may even have feelings about art, like, and just feeling like they've been left out of the conversation. And, like it's just not really a part of their culture. So, like, or at least contemporary art. So, by having contemporary art here in an alternative space, hopefully it encourages people to, you know, well, first of all, they get to experience it and appreciate it, but also hopefully it encourages them to realize that, they they can engage with art and they do have a stake in art and what kind of art is featured and who gets to showcase art and just become a part of the conversation of contemporary art in general.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more about your art? I saw your installations and they're amazing. They're abstract, but also they talk about tradition, about rituals. Can you tell us?
Yes, thank you so much, Graciela. So a lot of my work actually is inspired by sacred spaces. And I try to create these sacred spaces in sects of, of the Renaissance Italian masters particularly. So I, ended up really getting engrossed in that and just kind of really developing my painting skill after I graduated. After a while, I just, got a little bit sick of painting. And, it's just kind of one of those things where you hit a wall. Like you've been doing the same thing for a while, you're developing your skills still, but you need to focus on something else to reinvigorate your creativity. So I ended up getting into, I went back to school. I went to grad school at City College for my MFA. And there, a lot of the professors also were just like, we know that you can paint. We want to see what you can do to move the needle in the contemporary art conversation. And I was like really trying to figure out like, what can I do to show something new and still incorporate some of what I've learned, previously. And I've also, and also some of the other artworks that I pursued. I pursued fashion design for a while, and I was showing in New York Fashion Week, and I showed in Paris and in London Fashion Weeks and things like that. So, I kind of segued into different creative fields, but then I ended up kind of settling on contemporary art. And I decided, when I went back to school, I'm going to really focus on just creating, even if it's fashion, anything that I'm doing is going to be within the contemporary art realm. So, when I went back to grad school once again, that's when I decided, honestly, I took my first sculpture class there, and my professor wanted us to go around the room and just ask, like, what is the main takeaway you want to have from this class? And I just boldly said, I want to make freestanding sculptures, And I hadn't made a sculpture since, undergrad, which was like nearly 8 years ago. So, or 8 years prior. But that class really inspired me, and I just I really took off with it. I started incorporating like the painting and some of the even some fashion pieces that I created. I started making fabric sculptures and just making larger installations with objects as well that I felt also referenced the work that I was creating. I work in series, so usually it's like I'm concentrating on a specific theme, and I'll make multiple pieces that are sort of in some way an aspect of that theme. And I just found that like a major inclination for creating these series was sort of trying to seek some kind of spiritual or some kind of higher understanding.
I'm really amazed by your work, and we wanted to present you to in Transborder Art because you are doing something that is very interesting, that is rituals, very spiritual connection, and I really want you to walk us through a little bit what you have done here.
A little bit more about it. Well, in order for you to get, I guess, ground us in, what's in the space, I need to show you some photos of the space. So I'm going to actually share my screen and share a few images from the show itself. 1 second, I'm trying to figure this out.
So "Don't Let It Slip Through Your Fingers" is three artworks connected that are specific. It's kind of like a mantra, for me, and I hope that my audience can see, can kind of project something that maybe they lost, sort of like standing in for what I'm specifically highlighting, which is the ring. So I lost a ring that my grandmother gave me in 2019. And when I found this sort of like headstone that said 2019 on it, I just knew that I wanted to create this series. Don't let it. D stands for darkness. The hand that animated the drawing. Though every chainmail scale of the dragon inked on my arm is permanent, I will never feel its constriction like yours. No, D stands for discover. Knowing she is in touch with the divine makes me want to reach for higher truth, though your fading imprint is an ever-present reminder of my fading devotion to her memory. Slip through. 2 years passed, and the vacancy has taken hold, staring down the mouth of the serpent of gold. I'd like to slip through the wormhole to bend the fabric of the darkness that blinds me. Without the presence of you, I venture into the tunnel without a lantern. My vision fixed ahead without light to anchor it. If I'm not careful, I could fall into the black void. But without you, all I can see is your absence. If I could slip through to that moment, I may find my way to reclaim you. If only I could slip through. Your fingers. The capital D makes up half of the letter P. She is the embrace I sought through this keepsake. She is the eye of the diamond that stared back in my face, guiding me through countless mistakes. And one day, I will visit her final resting place. Her name is Patricia Phillips. Until then, this ring is in memory of your fingers that once held my hand. Your fingers that designed this custom ring. This is in memory of your fingers.
One second. So here, I'm sharing that, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up my website.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about each one. So you can say like a brief thing.
Graciela came prepared. She has photos of, I guess, some work that she really likes of my from my previous collection. These were super influential on me, even though I don't make any music. I was just inspired by their work. And I thought about them almost in, I thought about the music industry almost like a play, different roles that different musicians played, like in their persona that they brought to the table, the kind of archetypes that they represented in music. So I Got Life actually it seems to be a favorite of a lot of people. It's actually the smallest piece of the show. It's one of the smallest pieces I think I've made in the past 4 years.
This is amazing. It has a lot of passion.
She's speaking about
love is losing.
Yep.
Why is it a losing game?
You have to ask her that question. You know, the songwriter. So all of the
It's a beautiful piece.
Spoiler alert, like all the titles for the for all these pieces are actually the song titles from the references that I used for this series. So this series was actually instrumental to I don't think the series that I have here at Flux would have been possible if this series wasn't created first, because Materials for the Arts is closed down. Well, they were closed through the pandemic, so like no one was able to really come and go, and that meant that my show was going to be virtual. And in order to be able to activate them, you know, interact with them in a way that people can engage with, I needed to perform, you know, the ritual. Usually I like to have people come and they can explore it and kind of interact with them in their own ways as they see fit. But since audience activation wasn't possible, I knew that I needed to activate them. And that's when I created this. There's actually a video of the activation ritual.